Do you feel represented in the STEM field?
As far as me, myself, or people that look like me?
People like you.
People like me. I'm told that I'm not, but because of Smash, I was spoken to a lot of people that I guess reflected me, and they told stories of how they would walk into lecture halls and look around and no one looked like them, or they'd go to a job, or they're in the lab and they're kind of just the only person that does look like them. And so I know from at least the experience of others that people that do look like me are underrepresented in STEM, but because of Smash, I was only shown people who do look like me that are in STEM. So I don't feel it, but I am prepared for an experience that might just be what happens. My name is Refilwe. I'm 17 and I'm a senior at Oakland High. STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math, and to me it really just all encompasses science because it's just a way of thinking. And SMASH is the Summer Math and Science Honors Academy. It says summer, but we do a lot of academic year programs as well, and it's really just to get, I guess, children of color, underrepresented kids into STEM. We do a lot of STEM outreach. We have people that are in STEM come and speak to us, and we take classes here on campus in Berkeley. We have different sites too, but this is the campus I was at, and we lived there for 5 weeks with other high schoolers, and we took classes and learned more about kind of the different fields of science.
The fastest area where we're seeing job growth and the highest paid area where we're seeing jobs are in the STEM field, but African Americans and Latinos are not benefiting from this opportunity.
I'm interested in STEM because it's just a way of thinking that I like. I'm a really logical thinker. I like knowing that this leads to that, which leads to this. I ask a lot of questions. When I was in elementary school, a lot of complaints that I got from my teachers is that I asked too many questions, and I think science promotes that. It's like, ask the questions, analyze the question. When you get an answer, analyze that. It may be wrong, then start over and really try to figure out the solutions to things. I think that's just the type of person I am.
Well, we, as a research team here, have really looked at two kinds of barriers in STEM education: social barriers and, structural barriers, and social and psychological barriers. So structural meaning like K through 12 education, things like maybe less qualified teachers, less school funding, things like tracking, standardized testing, various barriers that are found within the schools or communities or policies.
Well, I'm in the Environmental Science Academy, so I probably have an unfair advantage to those kids that aren't in my academy. Because I'm in the Environmental Science Academy, I feel I have more STEM exposure because, like the academy's name, it's environmental science, but we're more hands-on. I've gotten experience with marine biology, with like just going out into nature itself and planting. We got to plant redwood sorrows in a redwood forest and talking to people from the Marine Mammal Center. So in that sense, because of my academy I'm taking STEM classes. I'm taking physics, AP Environmental Science, and my calculus class. So in that schedule, I'm also getting some exposure, I guess.
And then there's social and psychological barriers that we've seen, things like stereotype threat, which is anxiety about confirming a negative stereotype, which we see in test taking that can affect students of color in STEM. So that's one example. Or like isolation on a college campus, or things like that, which are more internal barriers versus the external barriers that I was talking about earlier.
I don't know, I guess I'd be more confused be like yelling out into a tunnel and be like, is anyone there? But I've never really had problems being kind of in a group or in a room and being the underrepresented one. My first couple years of high school, I went to a predominantly Hispanic school, so I was like one or two or three African Americans in a room. Then I went to Oakland High, and I'm like the only I am the only African American taking calculus in the school, and I'm in the Environmental Science Academy, which is predominantly Asian, and so I'm just like, I never really noticed it until other people pointed out to me. So I'm like walking out of my calculus class, and my friend Shakur is just like, oh, or you're in there. Or I'm like with my ESA scholars, and they're like, oh, you're in ESA? I thought that was like only for those kids. So to me, it's not something that really bothers me until it's like other people notice it, and I'm just kind of like, oh, I wonder why. What was the question? It was about
How would it be different?
Without Smash, right? I'd still be confused about what I wanted to do. I don't know.
So I think it's relevant in that it gives students tools, skills, confidence, it builds aspirations, it builds identity as a scholar in STEM.
For African American young people, black and brown, I mean, there's certain identities that are available to us, right? Anything is available to us, but there's certain identities that we are led to believe are available to us, you know, through things like mass media, right? Which deal in stereotypic depictions of our young people, right? So our young men, because I also teach at West Oakland Middle School, so my young men think that they can only be rappers or basketball players, right? For them to think that they can be scientists, right? Even though they're smart enough to do it, there has to be some type of identity shift for them. They have to understand that that is something that a young black man can be.
I think STEM could be really intimidating to some people because it seems like you have to be really smart or you have to kind of like know things already, but no one's like born knowing things, so really encouraging people to not be afraid to learn. And so I think that would push more people into STEM because just that intimidation of not being capable.
So that's why Level Playing Field and Smash in particular is trying to address this issue by preparing students starting early in elementary school, actually in middle school, but mostly in high school to get students ready academically so that they can go on and hopefully get a lot of these jobs when they become available.
Smash has supported me as far as helping me narrow down what field of science I was going to begin with. I've always had like a love and interest of math and science, but it wasn't until I joined Smash where it got even more complicated because I was like, whoa, fields of science I didn't even know existed or out there. Basically can study anything. And that initially made it very difficult because I'm like, I want to do everything. But the more I got to talk to the different speakers in our speaker series or just our RAs and hearing the different experiences of people and being able to work in the labs, I was able to narrow down what really interests me and I felt more of a passion for. So it helped me kind of narrow down my goals, but also let me know that there's so much more. So I didn't really have to limit myself, but gave me a starting point.
What I want to do is help develop young people who do well, who are competent, who understand, who can do STEM, but do it so that they better their communities and they don't forget about where they came from. So I think that that's vitally important. If it's just STEM, I don't really care about that. That doesn't interest me. It needs to be STEM that is working towards building community, a community of thinkers, a community of learners who are then going to go back and open a space for other people to follow in their footsteps. That's what's most important to me. So I think that STEM in communities of color has to be somewhat different than it is in the rest of general society. That may not be fair, but in reality, I think that it has to be that way because there's so few of us in these spaces.
Knocking down that barrier of intimidation that I feel like STEM has gotten a bad rep for, as far as you have to be super smart and you have to already know things. I didn't begin knowing things, so letting people know that you can learn, everyone's teachable, I'm teachable, so if I can do it, you can do it too. In all seriousness, I think that a lot of people because STEM doesn't show a lot of people that look like me, then the people of color would kind of just feel like, oh, then maybe it's not for me. And I think that's a mentality that people should get out of, or the idea that, oh, I'm not smart enough to do it, without really considering that you could learn, and is it something that interests you, or what does it mean to you? Do you know about all these different fields and the things that you can pursue?